from its very beginning,
we had no clue whatsoever the effect that this program was going to have on veterans. None.
Never Forgotten Honor Flight has aimed to change the lives of veterans.
I'm still thinking about it every day.
But putting on the flight has been no piece of cake from the volunteers.
It's such a heartwarming thing.
To the donors that make it all possible.
Warms my heart to know that I've helped and a part of helping them with that healing.
It takes a village to get this flight off the ground.
Tonight, we take a look at all of it in More Than a Flight.
And where we've gotten in 14 years is beyond Captain Kirk and the Enterprise. Yeah. We had no clue whatsoever the effect that this program was going to have on veterans. None.
14 years, 46 flights, and 4,399 veterans later, the Never Forgotten Honor Flight continues to provide a memorable, one-of-a-kind experience for veterans across the area.
And that's why, as we approach Veterans Day this year, we're taking this time to honor all those associated with the flight. News 9's Brad Hansen kicks us off by introducing us to the two men responsible for starting it all. He joins us in Mosinee with their story.
Well, it was right here at this bar 14 years ago that Central Wisconsin history was made. Jim Campbell and Mike Thompson met up for a fish fry and a beer. They came out of that meeting with the Never Forgotten Honor Flight. And since then, the work they did right here has helped touch the lives of thousands of veterans and their families across the area.
Jim and I sat down and we started scratching out some numbers. We needed a board of directors, about 10, 12 of them. We need probably about, we want to take about 100 World War II veterans to D.C. Going to need about 50 guardians. Going to need about $80,000. Whoa!
That initial sticker shock might have been enough to keep most people away, but Thompson and Campbell kept pushing, determined to get their first flight off the ground just 5 months after they committed to it.
Jim and I were literally talking about mortgaging our house in order to pay the difference to get that airplane into Central Wisconsin.
They were able to drum up enough support to avoid that, and on April 27, 2010, the first Never Forgotten Honor Flight went wheels up to Washington, D.C. Since then, the fundraising has been a little easier.
If I told you how many annual fundraisers are being held for us, you wouldn't believe it. You know, you just wouldn't believe it.
And it hasn't been just the fundraising efforts that have changed. The effect this flight has changed too. Jim and Mike used to think it was just to get the vets out to see their memorials. What they've found is the sightseeing part of the trip is sometimes the least important.
They find there's a catharsis when you talk about things that are hurting, that are in your heart and soul for 5, 6, 7 decades. And you actually feel a little better. And then they go home. And for the first time, they start talking to their family.
Those stories.
It's an experience many say changes their lives for good. An experience that might not have happened without Jim and Mike. A lot has changed in the 14 years since the meeting here happened, but one thing has not, and that is Jim and Mike's commitment to make sure the veterans here in our area are well taken care of. In Mosinee, I'm Brad Hansen, News 9 WAOW.
Thank you, Brad. And we heard much more from Jim and Mike. If you'd like to catch their full interview, you can head to WAOW.com.
Now, the Never Forgotten Honor Flight wouldn't be nearly as successful if not for the many people who donate to it.
To date, over 5,100 people have donated to those flights, but only 4 have earned the title of Medal of Honor sponsors, which means they donated more than $250,000. Can you imagine? One of those sponsors is Joanne Drager. She's the brains behind the Never Forgotten Honor Flight golf outing, which just celebrated its 14th year. It's a draining yet rewarding experience each and every outing.
Hearing the stories of the veterans that have gone and how they've healed because they've gone on the flight just warms my heart to know that I've helped and a part of helping them with that healing and being able to close that chapter.
Drager doesn't know exactly how much money she's raised, but this past year's outing raised more than $90,000.
Incredible. Well, those who have been on the honor flight agree it is a long and emotional day, and for many, those emotions are the greatest when they get back home. News 9's Isaac Dienison has a closer look at what it means for veterans to get that proper welcome home.
Here at Central Wisconsin Airport, it's not just where the honor flight experience starts, it's also where it ends. And for multiple veterans I spoke with, there's just something about seeing this whole space here light up with cheers that makes the whole thing worth it. Just listen. This is the sound of a community that cares about its veterans. But it's not a sound many Vietnam veterans heard when they originally returned from war.
I was spit on, I was sworn at, everything imaginable.
A lot of us were spit on, you know, when we came back.
They say that was just because they merely served in the military.
We didn't start that war. We were sent there and did what we were supposed to do, you know.
So for those that go on the never forgotten honor flight, those negative feelings surrounding their service often become flipped.
When people would finally say, thanks for your service, and my mind was always, where the hell were you 50 years ago when I really needed you? And I was coming back out of combat, wounded in a body cast. We got off the plane in Reagan Airport. It brought tears to my eyes, people cheering about me.
But once you get off that second flight, he says something inside you goes away.
It was like there was a nasty black hole in your soul, and this just automatically just squeezed it to death, and it was gone. And I've never had that feeling since then.
But when you see little kids, when you get off the plane, either in Washington, D.C. or here in Mosinee, and little kids are saluting you, how great is that, right?
And not only is it often a touching feeling in the moment, it sticks with you.
I'm still thinking about it every day, and some days it really brings a tear to my eye. I'm not ashamed to admit that.
That's what helps keep these honor flights going, sharing stories, earning closure, and creating memories.
Now this greeting is just wonderful. They love you, they appreciate you, and you love them back, and it's taking care of this one black mark. And that's what the honor flight does.
Reporting for News 9, I'm Isaac Dienison.
It is an incredible experience, and the work to get 100 or more veterans to and from D.C. can be a daunting task. To help, an army of volunteers come out to each and every flight, and our Jade Henschel introduces us to one man who's helped out for years now.
These guys deserve it.
Richard Peterson, an Air Force veteran, went on the honor flight 6 years ago. For about the last 5 years, he's been helping out as a volunteer. Richard says he likes helping take the veterans in wheelchairs onto the plane.
You see them in the morning, they're grumpy, they're tired, and by the time they get home at 10:30 at night, they got a smile on their face from ear to ear. It's such a heartwarming thing.
Richard says it's a wonderful group of people to work with, and the community is great with their support.
I don't think it's like this anywhere else in the country. I mean, this is a phenomenal thing that's happening here at Mosinee. Small town, small airport, but the people that in Washington, D.C., when we got there, it was the same thing. There's the people all around throughout the airport going to get the bus, and it was just fantastic.
He says there have been more and more volunteers over the years. You can find information on volunteering on the Never Forgotten Honor Flight website. Reporting for News 9, I'm Jade Henschel.
The honor flight is a memory that lasts a lifetime, leaving a mark on both the veterans and the guardians that go with them.
News 9's Sadie Fisher is joining us with the impact this trip had on her family.
The trip is a bonding experience for all who go on it, but what makes that bond even more special is when the veteran and their guardian are a pair of father-daughter veterans themselves, just like my grandpa and my mom. I sat down with her to talk about their trip on the honor flight over 10 years ago and what it means to her now that my grandpa is no longer with us.
See that? Now you gotta march.
I remember a lot about my Grandpa Ernie. His humor, his love for polka, the casino, his dog, and the many stories he would tell while visiting him in Minocqua. But the stories he never shared were the ones that happened while he served this country.
Very rarely do I recall him bringing it up. I mean, he would say, you know, Marines were the best, but that was about it.
My grandpa, Ernest Steinke, served in the Marines from 1951 to 1954. He was a sounds operator during the Korean War. My mom, Paula, the seventh of his 8 daughters, served in the Army from 1986 to 1988. She was a 91 Alpha, a medic. The pair flew on the 12th Never Forgotten Honor Flight together on May 13th, 2013.
Your grandpa was not doing very well health-wise, and some of my sisters thought it would probably be a good idea to try to get him on it.
The two of us sat down to talk about that trip and dug out all of the pictures.
That's my favorite picture.
And memories from that day.
He was very proud at that moment. Proud man.
One monument from the trip stood out to my mom the most.
Vietnam War wall. When you see it all, you hear about the number of people that, you know, died, but when you see all of their names in print like that, you know, you get goosebumps, you feel sad. Yeah, takes your breath away, actually.
But the trip was more than just sightseeing for her.
Spending time with my dad. You know, his responses to everything, you know, sometimes he would chat and other times he was real quiet.
My grandpa's favorite part wasn't necessarily what he saw either.
Sharing stories and talking to the other veterans that were on the flight, especially towards the end when a bunch of them decided they wanted to just sit on the bus, you know, chit-chatting and telling good stories and bad stories.
The honor flight is described as a healing experience for many veterans, my grandpa included.
I think everyone wants to hear from a veteran and their experience, and I think they think people don't want to hear about it. I try to encourage them to go for the healing process, I think, and then just to, you know, hear stories from other people, you know, so they know it is a shared experience, like, yeah, I was feeling this way or this happened, and I think it helps them heal, and I think that's why he was able to talk more about it after that.
Would you go on the flight as a chaperone again?
Absolutely. In a heartbeat. It made us closer. I feel that was a turning point in our relationship where we got closer.
My grandpa Ernie passed away in April of 2019, but his spirit and his memory still lives on. It's a memory our whole family can look back on.
There you go. Yeah.
And I'm forever grateful for both of their service.
Semper Fi.
Sadie Fisher, News 9, WAOW.
Amazing story. Well, the honor flight is a trip of a lifetime, and an area brewery wants to help as many veterans take part as they can. We'll give you a look at what they're doing.
Plus, I'm just really looking forward to see his smile. A long-awaited welcome home, bringing hope and healing to veterans, what their loved ones want them to know after this break. Welcome back. While the veterans are off in D.C. for the day, their families and loved ones are waiting to welcome them home. They say this type of homecoming, well, it is one that they were not offered years ago. News 9's Sabrina Lee sharing their stories.
Waiting. It's a feeling Annette Bowman knows all too well, but this time she's waiting with anticipation.
I'm super, super excited for her. Just super excited, and I reached out to so many people, and from what I understand is she's getting the most mail tonight. So yeah, I'm super excited. She has a wonderful guardian.
Her sister, Janet Reyes, served in the Army for over 3 years, and she's the only woman on this honor flight. But Bowman says she didn't feel like she deserved to be honored.
And she said, well, I really didn't do anything during the Vietnam War, but she did. She delivered mail. Out in Germany is where she was stationed the whole time.
And Reyes isn't the only vet to feel that way. Judy Ebel's husband, Stephen Deal, was the only Coast Guard member on the flight. And she said convincing him to go wasn't necessarily easy.
And I'm really happy that he made it on this flight. He was reluctant to come on this because he didn't feel like he deserved to be honored. He was a hospital corpsman, so he was there to help people. And he did his duty, whether you agreed with the war or not. He stood up and he did what he needed to do.
A cold homecoming was almost standard after the war, strikingly different from the experience the honor flight offers.
He was in Vietnam, and they didn't get a good welcome when they came home, and he, I think, has been feeling that for his whole life. It's been difficult to watch him struggle with it.
Bowman is beyond grateful to the organization for giving her sister so much.
It is amazing. I just can't thank the volunteers enough for what everyone has done. I mean, the treatment like Janet kept saying, well, I don't know that I really deserve all this, she said. But they do. Each and every one do.
Ebel feels the same, saying she can't wait to see her husband.
I'm just really looking forward to see his smile and to know that he feels lighter about it and to know that he really is honored and that he deserves to be honored.
For News 9, I'm Sabrina Lee.
Of course, honoring our area veterans wouldn't be possible without the donors who give their time and talents to make it all possible. One of those, photographer Dave Junion. He's been aboard all of the honor flights but 2. His photos capture the emotions of area veterans who fly to the nation's capital. He calls it an honor to travel with them and hear their stories, and to share the special moments his camera captures.
And you watch the eyes, and it goes from, yeah, I'm gonna go get a look at something, to just this wash of emotion. That's just tremendous. And that happens throughout the day. So it's not one moment, it's just looking for those moments to catch where people are feeling.
That's always nice.
I can see Dave's work on the Never Forgotten Honor Flight webpage as he follows the veterans from pre-flight activities, aboard the plane, and visiting the memorials. Of course, the heartwarming return home.
One surefire way to raise money here in Wisconsin, of course, is to do it through the sale of beer.
And that's exactly what one area brewery has done, all to benefit the honor flight. News 9's Jake Sentholz shares the story and the impact of the Never Forgotten Lager.
At the average price of $500 per veteran, it's taken a village and a whole lot of dollars to send 4,400 veterans on the Never Forgotten Honor Flight since the chapter was established in November of 2009. Oso Brewing Company has been a large part of those contributions for the last couple of years.
I've had a personal relationship with a Vietnam vet that, that was very near and dear to me, and I heard the stories and that, and I just thought, that this is a great way to kind of give back, and so we made a real easy drinking beer just to give back.
When I spoke with Mark back in March for the launch of the Never Forgotten Brew, he told me their goal was to raise $20,000, up from the $8,000 raised the year previous. Well, they haven't quite reached it yet. They are well on their way, presenting checks totaling more than $13,000 just a few weeks ago. But this year, it wasn't just the brew's namesake who benefited.
This year we added on all the honor flights in the state of Wisconsin. So if it's sold in that area, the proceeds went to that area's honor flight.
Beyond providing monetary support, the brew also offers a chance at camaraderie.
When the guys come back from the flights, they're drinking the beer, it's just pretty great, and hopefully it kind of becomes one of those regular things.
And if you haven't had the chance to try it out yet, well, don't worry. There's still plenty left on tap, and even more has been canned.
Thank you, Jake. And veterans travel from all over to take part in this special flight, and of course, they need a place to stay. We spotlight another donor and hear why he wants to give back straight ahead.
Plus,
these letters will never disappear. They will be with me to the end of time.
It's not only letters from loved ones back home. People from all over are thanking these veterans for their service. How much it means to them, we'll show you when we come back. Welcome back. The Never Forgotten Honor Flight serves 19 area counties, which means travel for many of the vets before they take the trip.
Luckily, a partnership between the Honor Flight and a local hotel group means that they have somewhere to stay. Chuck Gadorzi of Gadorzi Companies found a way to help out with the rooming situation for the veterans. By donating hotel rooms, Gadorzi is able to give back and show how important the Honor Flight is to him and how much he wants to honor our veterans.
It kind of makes for a nice warm welcome to the community. It kind of sets up, the point of their cooperation in terms of getting everything together, and it's just nice being able to give back to these vets.
We did spotlight a couple more sponsors that we couldn't fit into this show, but we do have their stories on our website. You can catch those at WAOW.com.
Well, after a long day in Washington, D.C., you might think the flight home for our Honor Flight veterans is a quiet one filled with snoozing vets. But one special event, Mail Call, ensures that they have plenty to do. News 9's Nick Robinson has one veteran story and what it means to him to hear from those in the country he served.
In an age of text messages and emails, writing someone a letter has become a less popular pastime. But for the men and women who served their country, a simple thank you letter carries as much weight now as it did back then.
It says, Mr. D, and we're good friends. Hope you're enjoying your honor flight. I think it is a tremendous honor to do this for our veterans.
Dwayne Kalmus served in the Army during the Vietnam War, and while he says life in an active combat zone was stressful, there was always one thing he was excited about.
And one thing we actually looked forward to was mail call, because it was the only interaction that we had basically with the outside world.
He says he received several letters from friends and family while he was overseas, and after he returned to the States and raised a family in central Wisconsin, he went on a different kind of mission, flying to the nation's capital with his fellow vets. And this time, mail call was a lot bigger than he expected. People from as far away as Florida sent him letters thanking him for his service.
Reminded me of, back in the service days, what those letters actually meant. And it was just it was really touched the heart, showing that the people that sent these letters took time to actually write them, put the thought in that they did have.
Because the flight got back late at night, Kalmus says he didn't open the letters until the next morning. And when he did, he says the emotion hit him like a ton of bricks.
As I read through each one of them, no matter whose they were, where they came from, or whatever, there was just like a special connection. And as I told my wife, I says, these letters will never disappear. They will be with me to the end of time.
And as he read one of his favorites, the piece of paper in Kalmus's hand proved it was worth its weight in gold.
Thank you for serving our country and our way of life. Only possible because of guys like you.
If you want to thank a veteran and write them a letter, you can find more information on our website, WAOW.com. In Marathon County, Nick Robinson, News 9, WAOW.
A big thank you to all of our veterans for their service.
And thank you for spending some time with us. Have a good night.